Okay, so this has happened every single time I've recorded a video for like the past 3 months now. I record the video, then I stop fucking recording, then I never post it because I just record these videos for myself nowadays. But I think this one is actually gonna get posted, so I'm saying it I'm saying it out loud, so I would actually do it. Anyway, Dotesmite, where have you been? Why haven't you been making Myriad Hermetica videos? Why haven't you been posting anything to this channel? Well, I've been making fuck tons of RuneScape content. I've been making fuck tons of RuneScape videos. So if you want like a comfy old school let's play, go to Dotesmite on YouTube. Great videos, good content. Fucking, I have 3 episodes out now. The 4th one is coming tomorrow, I think. And yeah, weekly uploads, you know, consistent. Anyway, so pretty much that's what I've been doing. Dotesmite on YouTube, whatever. Anyway, so the reason I bring all of that up is that this topic is something that was at the core of a video I wrote for Myriad Hermetica, because I've actually like written there's a fucking biker. I've actually written a lot more for that channel than I've published, because, you know, writing the video is the easy part, recording it and actually fucking editing it and doing shit like that, that's the hard part. And the video is called, or would be called, or will be called, Riverdale's writing is good, actually. And the central thesis of that video is that Riverdale fucking executes a teen drama in an actually interesting way, and that fucking combining Lynchian influences with a very set fucking aesthetic and tone, it doesn't mean that the dialogue is cringy, but rather that it's also fucking like it conveys a specific message, and it formats the show in a specific way, and that all of these things that people go like, oh, these are bad, aren't like fucking accidental oversights, but rather intentional parts of the product, right? So it's not like, oh, I'm weird, I'm a weirdo, I am feeling, I have what I'm feeling, right? That's not like a fucking accident. That's something that people intentionally wrote to get an effect similar to the effect it gets, although in context it's a way more appropriate thing to say. And this is what everyone ignores about Riverdale, is that they fucking remove the cringy parts from the context that makes them actually like interesting and emotionally compelling in a fucking broad sense. Like that's what the video is about. Like, it's just Riverdale apologia. But like, one central part of that video, that's a thing that I've been thinking about for a while, is what people define as good character writing, right? Because right now we've reached a stage in, I don't know, culture. I'm gonna take the long path because, you know, I wanna just record this video, and I don't wanna like be like, oh, I reached the store, time to turn it off, and then fucking resume once I'm back from the store. You've seen Dotesmite videos, you know how that goes. So I'm gonna take the scenic route and just fucking talk about this bullshit, right? Anyway, my good friend Princess Plunderphonics has this series called Magic. It's a great fucking comic. You should look at her fucking YouTube channel to get the links, because I think they're in there somewhere. There's 2 chapters out right now. I know the first one is easy to find. I don't know how like easy to find the second one is, so just go to Princess Plunderphonics fucking YouTube channel, fucking find Magic. Great fucking webcomic or comic or whatever. And that's kind of the epitome of like character-based writing to me, right? It's writing that centers immensely on just the personalities of the people involved, right? Like, the chapters are explorations of who the characters are as people, and it doesn't really have like any massive dynamic plot or complex lore and world building. It's just things that Plunder likes, and to put into these characters that have their own like gimmicks and stuff. And it's a great comic, right? And a lot of people would go like, okay, so that's like what people mean when they mean like good character writing. Although, I mean, to be fair, the overlap of people who like magic and the people who have fucking brain worms about character writing is relatively small. However, someone could hypothetically pick up that comic and go like, oh, this is good writing, right? Because it focuses on these fleshed out, compelling characters, right? And that's like the human relatability aspect in stories, right? Like, it makes you care about the fucking people who the fucking author made up, right? Now the thing with magic is that it's actually well written, right? It's not just about these characters, right? It's not just about, oh, this wacky character has this personality. It's if you fucking think about it for more than a second, or if you've just ever heard Plunder talk, it's about relationships and the dynamics between the people who have those relationships, right? It's a comprehensive overview of what friendship, fucking parental relations and so on can do to people, and what perspectives you can like use to look at the people in your own life, right? That's kind of the overall point of the comic, right? That's kind of like what Thunder is trying to say, right? And that to me is the infinitely more compelling part. Like, sure, the characters are cool, like the characters are great, but like to me, the thing that like resonates even more is what those characters are there to say, right? But then you have like fan fiction writers, for example, because I think fan fiction is a great lens for seeing what people assume is good writing, right? Because if you're writing fan fiction, you're not really writing like original fiction or whatever, right? You're not practicing writing as a craft necessarily, but rather you're doing writing simply to express something, right? Which is perfectly valid, right? However, if you're doing something not as a craft and just to express yourself, there's always the element in it, which is the fucking trying to, like, if you're doing something as a hobby without engaging in the craft, the things you create are always going to be commentaries on what you think the craft is, right? So when people write fan fiction, they're not just writing their fan fiction, they're writing what they think fiction should be like, right? And it's always this specific style, like not always, but generally, where it's internally directed fucking character relationship, fucking like when people write fan fiction, they're basically answering the question, what does this character think about themselves and the other characters around them, right? That's like the central thesis of most fan fiction, at least. Because that's the part you generally don't get to see in the shows, of course, but also because that's kind of what people think writing should be about. And they feel a distinct lack of that in official media, because official media won't just blatantly tell you what a character is thinking or feeling, right? So it's like, to an extent, when it comes to how people think that fiction can be fixed, we arrive at this fan fiction idea where people are fixing fiction by creating these overt characterizations that don't leave any room for doubt and act as act as more canonical than canon itself, right? Like this is kind of what people think would improve writing. To have like a strict canon where every character's thoughts and feelings are deliberately and distinctly explained. Furthermore, most fanfiction doesn't really focus on like themes or plot or whatever, right? Which is why fanfiction can be easily sorted into categories, right? This is a fucking fanfiction that's enemies to lovers, right? This is a fanfiction that's fucking, I don't fucking know. It's teacher ex reader or whatever the fuck people write in fanfiction, right? It's all based on these specific arcs that have been predetermined, and the fanfiction can thus be easily slotted into the available fucking plot structures, right? It's not distinct in the same way that actual like literature is distinct, because actual literature doesn't come with tags. Actual literature, right, as a craft, not as a hobby, because I think there's a meaningful distinction between fucking fiction and literature, literary fiction and genre fiction, so on and so on and so on. I think I'm a fucking elitist writer, right? I think there's a meaningful distinction. Who cares? I fucking don't. But anyway, when it comes to like literary fiction and fan fiction, there's a very clear distinction where literary fiction can't really be neatly characterized the same way that genre fiction, or more importantly fan fiction, can, right? Because what fucking writers consider to be like good writing isn't writing to appease or appeal to any specific audience, but rather writing that's designed to communicate some message, right? Or to explore a lot of themes. And does this make sense? Does this make sense so far? Anyway, let's talk about fandom culture in general, right? When it comes to like fandom culture, you never like have like fandom discussions about like, I mean, you sometimes have and they're cool, but generally most fandom discussions revolve around interpreting characters, right? Most fandom discussions go like, okay, I'm gonna ship fucking Rarity and Applejack. No, that's a shit ship. Why the fuck would you think that Rarity and Applejack would work? You have to ship fucking Fluttershy and fucking Applejack or whatever the fuck. All my phony audience is having like really strong heated opinions right now. I've seen like some episodes of the show. Don't kill me. Anyway, so that's like fandom discussion in general, right? Where it's like, oh fuck, this character is really cool. Like me, I'm a known Friska fan, right? When I see a picture of Friska, I go like, holy shit, that's Friska, right? I'm not immune to any of this. I'm not beyond any of this. I just have like a different perspective than someone who's like completely embroiled in fandom culture would have, right? Okay, so now we have reached the fucking general point of the audience reception to writing in our current society, which is incredibly character heavy, right? People who are in the audience for a specific property are not in the audience compulsively and obsessively because they care that much about like the themes of whatever, but rather because they care about the characters. They resonate with the characters, they connect with the characters, and that is their conduit for liking the show, right? So you get like a bunch of posts on Tumblr or whatever, which is like, oh, I don't care about plot, I don't care about whatever the fuck, I just want to see my character doing things right on screen. Which is, again, I'm a fucking slice of life fag, fucking 1 degree removed, right? I'm not gonna be like, oh, you just want slice of life character, fucking whatever. No, that's completely fine. Like I love slice of life. I wish there were more slice of life things, right? However, pretty obviously, right? It's all very fixated on this concept of like resonating with characters and characters that appeal to you. And that is all to say, right, is that the general consensus when it comes to discussing literature is currently discussing the characters within literature, right? And it's like, okay, sure, that's the fucking audience reception. That doesn't really matter, Dotesmite. This is something that people obviously know. This is something that people fucking are fully aware of. But this has cascading effects, because this, at the end of the day, stops being an audience issue and becomes a critic issue or a commentator issue or a journalist issue. Because now, when there's no interest in really discussing themes or framing or fucking anything more interesting than characters, at least to me, when you're a person who works in the meta-media landscape, right, where you talk about media, you can no longer really go like, okay, I'm gonna talk about my fucking thematic interpretations of this specific property, unless it's a specific thing that's marketed towards that audience, right? Like if you're talking about Synecdoche in New York, you can obviously talk about the themes in that fucking movie. But if you're talking about like whatever fucking, I don't know, Adventure Time, 99% of the fucking interest is in what the characters are doing, right? Which is why fucking people got so mad about like, oh, Finn becomes a creepy old guy like his dad was, right? When it's pretty obvious that that's a blatant communication of a theme, although that's a theme that I personally would also find disagreeable, right? Like, I have a personal objection to that theme. I understand why people would have a objection to the character, right? But the thing is, this is ultimately my point. Let's take that specific example, because that's a fucking great example that I just literally thought of randomly. when it comes to Finn in Adventure Time, right, people aren't really, like, at their core upset that Finn has ended up like his dad and fucking the cycle has repeated, and this character who was originally heroic after going through circumstances similar to what his dad went through became similarly fucking pitiful or whatever, right? Like that theme, that's ultimately like the theme of the fucking character arc, right? It's the character arc and the theme are in perfect fucking harmony because the character arc is there to specifically communicate that theme. So the reason why people actually find it objectionable isn't because they thought that Finn was such a sweet and caring character or whatever, isn't really because they were so attached to Finn, but rather because Adventure Time as a show communicates a message that's directly contrary to a theme that like fucking pessimistic, right? Adventure Time as a show is there fucking to basically fucking exist as like a how to describe it? Like the central themes of Adventure Time is the general idea that people can be rescued, and that like generally mundane everyday activities can be extraordinary if you just put the fucking time and attention into it, right? Say more compelling character progression, although I haven't seen like the entire thing, I've just seen clips and people discussing it, right? Like hypothetically more compelling characterization, right, instead of focusing on like the negative aspects of Finn, would be to just have like Finn just be a regular old guy, right? Like because that would capture the theme of him being acknowledged as the adventurer he is, while also letting fucking the show showcase how mundanity can like change with age and fucking, you know, having cool. Or there's a million different interpretations that are way more congruent with the general messaging of that show, right? However, the official interpretation became so fucking congruent, so fucking obviously, that the people who were invested in the show were clearly upset, right? And this is the thing with characters. This is ultimately the thing with all characters. They're not real people, right? If Finn was just like a person, it would make perfect sense for him to become someone who is just like his father, right? However, Finn isn't a person. Finn is there to communicate his themes, and when his characterization directly contradicts what he's supposed to communicate, that's bad. That's not good. And this applies to every single story, right? This applies to fucking Riverdale, this applies to fucking SpongeBob, this applies to fucking the Joker. I'll tell again, every single story is an exaggeration. There are some specific fucking narratives that are deliberately character explorations, right? There are some specific fucking stories that are written just about a character and not about a place or a time or a fucking general themes, but those are so exceedingly rare, right, that they don't even fucking count to me. And I can't even think of one off the top of my head. I just know that they have to exist at some point. So ultimately, right, what a character is doesn't matter. How a character relates to the fucking themes which are central to a story matters. And this is the ultimate problem, right? And that works incredibly well, right? Because if you don't tell a human something, they'll go like, oh, I wonder what that was, right? So you can just set up a central plot point like, hey, you don't know what's behind that curtain, right? And you can just fucking keep them interested until you show them what's behind the curtain. However, what everyone fucking misses these days is you have to have a worthwhile thing behind the curtain to not tell people what's behind the fucking curtain, right? It's like, oh, what's behind the fucking curtain? And it's an allusion to the fucking Wizard of Oz, like, oh, I'm so clever, aren't I? But it's not clever. You could have just told me that at the start of the story and nothing would have changed. Literally, it would have just been more fun to watch because the fucking story wouldn't have had to be fucking concerned. It's just fucking a million red herrings about who could possibly be behind the curtain, right? Because you can't set something up to be disappointing, because at that point it's just completely worthless. There's no fucking actual heart or appeal to it. The same also goes with like the modern conception of suspense, which is like the show shows you something that's like really close to happening, right? Oh, a bad thing is almost about to happen. Oh, look, a bad thing is almost about to happen, and it never gets followed up on, right? It's always like, oh, this bad thing almost happened, but it didn't happen, and then the show just fucking moves on. There's no repercussions. There's no fucking anything. It's just, oh, it's just directed at the audience, right? This is the central problem I have with all of these fucking things, is that they're all like storytelling techniques that are directed to fucking manipulate the audience's emotions instead of just trying to communicate your emotions with the audience, right? They're so plainly and obviously just storytelling techniques, right? Oh, I'm gonna write this sympathetic character. Oh, I'm just gonna not tell you something. Oh, I'm gonna show you something, but that might be happening that's bad, but then it never happens and there's no consequences. I hate all of these things. I wish writing was better. I wish people fucking understood resolution and themes instead of writing bad things anyway. That's a Dotesmite video, yep.